Hi and welcome to the tutorial on painting a stylized tiling texture that we have gotten out of ZBrush. We've already set up a Photoshop file with all of our renders that we have gotten out of ZBrush. And these are our white map, the AO map, the white cavity map, a sketch map, the height map, and the white wax map, which is taken from the red material but then desaturated. Make sure you have all these textures in your scene, and additionally we've also baked our normals in XNormal, and we have taken another ambient occlusion map also from XNormal. We need all these maps to composite over our textures so that we can start painting some details in. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm just calling this background, and I'm going to fill this with a pure white color so that we have something that we can composite over. I'm going to lock this because I'm not going to need it anymore. Then one thing I discovered is that some maps have some artifacts that we have to fix manually. So when we cut away these pixels, there has been a problem that there's going to be a visible seam once we tile the texture. And I'm going to fix this for some of the maps. So what I'm going to do is I start by finding the errors, and I'm going to take the healing brush and go over it, and this works for most of the times. Let's do it like this. This one I will do manually, so I take my paintbrush and I'm going to just pick the neighboring colors and I'm going to blend this. So that there's no hard seam. And the area is very small, so you won't really see what I've done here. But if there's a hard edge, you will see that. Going back to my healing brush, just making sure the hard edges are disappearing. Okay, let's check to the left and to the right. Okay, we have two problem areas here, which I have to paint by hand again because those are a bit more tricky. And I'm keeping this very small, I just want to make sure that the seam is gone. This is already enough. Like this. Okay, with the normal map fixed, I'm going to check the other maps very quickly to tile these. And there's some problem here also for the ambient occlusion map. Just going to do the same. Okay, now that this is fixed, let's have a look at the other textures. And these are looking better. This one is very, very subtle, so I'm not going to touch this one. Here we have to fix the seam, and I'm going to do that and pause the video and go through all of the textures, and then we can start with the compositing phase. Okay, now that this is fixed, we can start with the compositing. It's worth going through the textures and give them a final check before you start to composite, because the fixing with the healing brush really only takes a few minutes, and there are only very few rare cases where you have to manually paint away the errors. So I would suggest doing that if you encounter these errors too. And I showed you very quickly how to fix them. So let's start with the compositing. For this, I'm just going to do some naming changes. I'm going to take the ambient occlusion, and this one is from ZBrush. This one is AO from X normal, and this one is my normal, so that I have a bit clearer view of my layers. Right, we already have our background, so what I'm going to start with is I'm going to take the height map, and this one I'm going to multiply over it by 80%. And what the height map is doing for us, it gives us some nice color variation on top, so that all the stones have a different color, and this is nicer, especially for a tiling texture. Missed a spot there. So back to multiply, 80%. Next one is going to be our sketch texture. And for this one, I'm going to apply a levels layer, and I'm going to create a clipping mask so that it only affects the sketch layer. And what I want from the sketch mask is I just want to see the outlines clearly, so that my texture has some nice outlines already painted in. And then I'm going to set the sketch layer to overlay, but I'm reducing this to 50%. Next, we're going to take the white cavity, and this one I'm going to multiply so that our texture gets these cavities and the black spots in between the bricks, and I'm going to set this one to 50%. Then I'm going to take our other white map, which is this one, and I'm also going to set this one to multiply and to 80%, so that we have some nicer shadows. Then after the multiplies, I'm going to use our ambient occlusion maps, and I'm starting with the one from X normal. And ambient occlusion always multiply. And I like to keep this at a bit lower, so I'm going to use 80%. And you can already see there's some nice depth to our texture and some nice color variation. So you see that the white stones seem to be higher than the darker ones, which is really nice. Then I'm going to take the AO from ZBrush, and I'm going to apply another levels layer here, only on this one, so I create a clipping mask. I'm going to see if I can get some more detail out of here. Yeah, maybe like this. I'm going to keep this, so also going to put this on multiply, and this adds some more variation to it, and I'm also going to set this to 80%. And lastly, we have our standard material, which I'm going to set to overlay. And as you can see, this already looks like our brick texture that we've made in ZBrush with all the layers composited, and now we're going to apply colors to it.